Good day, it's October 27th, 2025. For the 10th time, Democratic leaders in the U.S. Senate had rejected the Republican-led resolution to reopen the government. That means the federal government shutdown continue. I'm Sam Buban. Welcome to The Pulse.
And I'm Joe Buban. Welcome to this week's edition.
Government shutdown has gone into the fourth week, with the national government still not open for business for the people. And that includes the U.S. government facilities abroad, like the embassies, consulates, and trade missions, and other U.S.-owned entities abroad. The impasse remains to be the end of the subsidies under the Affordable Care Act, or Obamacare, that every American in blue and red states wants to continue, but the Trump administration wants it ended. And the Republicans in the House and Senate are going along with it. But patience are wearing out even among the Republican members in the House rebelling against Speaker Mike Johnson, with some members criticizing the Speaker for not talking to the Democrats to come up with negotiations and a deal. Among them, Congressman Kevin Kiley of California. President Trump is proposing that the military receive paychecks in spite of the government shutdown, or no legal spending bill, but immediately received pushback from several lawmakers as another power grab by Donald Trump from the powers of Congress. Some political observers think that the proposal to appease the National Guard, which he deploys to several Democratic stronghold states like California, Illinois, and Oregon, who are opposed to deploying their National Guards to patrol the streets and support troops for ICE raids, the Immigration and Customs Enforcement. As it is, only Congress by law are getting paid during the government shutdown. But critics are pushing back hard on Speaker Mike Johnson not calling a session, despite the crisis in the country created by the government shutdown. Democrats are not giving in to the Republican effort to end subsidies under the Affordable Care Act to protect their constituents. Even voters from heavy Republican states are asking their representatives to protect the Affordable Care Act. They have rejected the GOP spending resolution for the 10th time.
Republican U.S. Senator Susan Collins of Maine, who is up for re-election next year during the midterm election, has gotten another formidable opponent, the incumbent Governor Janet Mills. Governor Mills launched her campaign last week after a seemingly bad news for another Democratic challenger to Senator Collins, Graham Plattner, the Democrat who was gaining momentum in his campaign to unseat Susan Collins. Plattner recently became the subject of controversy when a report from Reddit resurrected a post Plattner did that has since been deleted, regarding comment dismissing rape in the military. But in spite of that, Plattner said he will remain in the race for the Democratic primary in Maine. Plattner is a military veteran and an oyster farmer in the state of Maine. He had since apologized for his previous social media posts in which he referred to himself as a quote-unquote communist, criticized police, and made disparaging remarks about rural white Americans. Senator Collins, who is struggling to convince her constituents in her state that she is still able to represent them, is increasingly seen by Democrats as the more vulnerable Republican senator. The Maine GOP senator was not received well and got a rebuke from her constituents during her last town hall meeting.
The Senate Democrats are getting optimistic with the prospect of retaking the control of the upper chamber in the 2026 midterm election, not just the House of Representatives, which are more likely to flip to the Democratic side for 120th Congress. But what is the likely pathway? The Republicans are majority in the Senate by 3 seats. That means that in the midterm election in 2026, Democrats had to flip a total of 4 seats to pass the bills they want, considering that Vice President J.D. Vance will still be an obstacle as the tiebreaker vote as President of the Senate. So where are the Democrats likely to find those 4 seats, granting that all existing Democratic-held seats will remain in Democratic hands? Going into the 2024 election, Democrats had just 1 seat majority, 51 to 49. But with the Trump in the ballot, it was an uphill battle for the Democrats, with 3 vulnerable senators already likely to lose, as shown by polls, and they did. 3 seats were lost to the Republicans, and according to several political analysts, this will be the likely pathway in 2026. The Democrats had to flip the seat of Susan Collins of Maine, that's 1. Former Senator Sherrod Brown must be able to win back a Senate seat by defeating Senator Jon Husted, who was appointed to replace J.D. Vance when he won as Vice President, that's 2. In North Carolina, former Democratic Governor Roy Cooper, who was popular in the state and now running for U.S. Senate in the open seat election, must win that seat, formerly held by Thom Tillis, who announced that he is retiring. That's 3. And the 4th seat, the Democrats can likely pick up, considering the atmosphere right now and going into November next year, where Trump's approval rating is now down to 37% approve to 61% disapprove, will be in Iowa, where the incumbent Senator Johnny Ernest decided not to run and is now an open seat election. It is in Iowa that Democrats had consecutive success in flipping a Republican district to their side in special elections for the state legislature. The Democratic Senate Campaign Committee is also eyeing on the state of Texas as a possible pickup. If the Democratic candidate, Congressman Colin Allred, could defeat Republican Senator John Cornyn in a state where the Republicans are divided and fighting against each other, where Senator John Cornyn is being challenged by State Attorney General Ken Paxton, who created his faction against other Republicans in the state. Although former Congressman Colin Allred did not prevail against Senator Ted Cruz when Trump was on the ballot, Allred appears to have a better chance of flipping the seat of John Cornyn this time to the Democratic side.
On the James Comey case that is being prosecuted by interim U.S. Attorney Lindsay Halligan, the former FBI director, through his defense counsel, have asked the federal judge to dismiss the case, arguing that he is being vindictively prosecuted because of Donald Trump's animosity towards him. Comey, in a pair of motions for dismissal filed last week in federal court in the Eastern Virginia District, also argued the case filed against him is fatally flawed because his prosecutor, Lindsay Halligan, was appointed unlawfully, just like interim U.S. Attorney Alina Habba. Comey wants U.S. District Judge Michael Nachmanoff to dismiss the case with prejudice, meaning it cannot be refiled. In his filing, Comey's lawyer said any lesser remedy would be insufficient in light of government flagrant misconduct and the need to deter the government from bringing further unconstitutional prosecutions. The former FBI director is being represented by Patrick Fitzgerald, a high-profile defense attorney. In an unrelated case, the judge ruled against Alina Habba prosecuting Trump's opponents and should not be prosecuting because she was acting unlawful as U.S. attorney. We are going to take a commercial break. Please stay tuned.
Medical Equipment provides top-notch quality medical supply equipment. Whether to rent or buy, Pure Medical Equipment and Supplies has it all.
Pure Medical Equipment is committed to serve and give back to Southern Nevada.
We deliver medical supplies and rentals to your door.
Welcome back to the polls. Did Marco Rubio betray U.S. informants on El Salvador prison deal? Reports had surfaced in multiple media outlets that Secretary of State Marco Rubio allegedly betrayed an El Salvadorian informant in an effort to seal a deal with El Salvador President Nayib Bukele. In a report from the news media outlet The Independent, Marco Rubio reportedly agreed to abandon confidential informants who were protected by the U.S. government to seal a deal with the El Salvadoran president. The arrangement, signed in the days leading up to the president's invoking the Alien Enemies Act to summarily deport Venezuelan gang members, Tren de Aragua. The agreement with El Salvador's Bukele gave access to the U.S. the notorious Terrorism Confinement Center, or SICOT, decried by human rights organizations as a tropical gulag. The U.S. transported about 250 Venezuelans, many of whom were mistakenly identified as Tren de Aragua gang members, where they were kept there in El Salvador prison for 5 months. But government officials later admitted that many of those Venezuelans did not have criminal records. Those Venezuelans were eventually repatriated to Venezuela, their home country, in an agreement between El Salvador, Venezuela, and the Trump administration. But what made Marco Rubio's action controversial? The Secretary of State, in an effort to facilitate summary deportation for the administration, talked to Pam Bondi to send MS-13 gang members to El Salvador, many of whom were informants for the FBI that led to case buildup against the MS-13 gang. But President Bukele wanted them sent to El Salvador to be imprisoned in SICOT. Former Justice Department officials appear frustrated that the Trump administration would be blowing up cases involving alleged gang members that law enforcement spent years investigating to win over as cooperators. A former FBI agent, Daniel Brunner, who had worked on a task force investigating MS-13, said, "It would be disheartening if I worked my butt off for a year to collect evidence, to get him into custody, to bring him to justice, just for the Justice Department or the State Department to turn around and say, okay, we're going to drop all the charges. It would gut me as a case agent," he told the Washington Post.
The third Miss Phil-Am Nevada pageant took place in Las Vegas this past weekend. This project was started by the nonprofit organization, the Phil-Am Civic Action International, Inc., or FASAI, 3 years ago when Sam Buban was president of the organization. The event evolved into 4 categories based on age bracket and 4 titles to compete upon, like Miss Teen Phil-Am Nevada, Miss Phil-Am Nevada, Mrs. Phil-Am Nevada, and Miss Elegant Nevada. Participants from teenagers to senior citizens totaled 27 candidates. The community undertaking is for the benefit of charitable works of FASAI, which include assistance funds for calamity or disaster victims and cash scholarship grants to college students. This event was done at Samstown Showroom last Saturday. Here are some video footages from that event.
Kasi ano, ang pangalan daw niya is
Ladies and gentlemen, drum roll please. Our next Miss Phil Am Nevada USA 2026, who will be representing Miss Phil Am at the USA Crown, is candidate number 8, First runner-up, candidate number 7, Mary Gutierrez. Congratulations. And this award will be presented by Judge Mary Parvey, Tony Benito, Ms. Sarah Melpaglanawan, Ms. Jocelyn Borromeo, and it's Connie Diallo from Chiquiti.
The TV coverage and telecast was done by FLM TV Channel 26.5 Las Vegas.
This has been quite a long celebration for the Philippine History Month for the state of Nevada. From the inauguration events of the Filipino town Las Vegas to other cultural events by various PhilAm organizations in Las Vegas, Filipino community, and this one, the Las Vegas Filipino Short Film Festival. In the film festival, the top winner received the Crisostomo Ibarra Award. The event was organized under the leadership of Margie Llorente Gonzalez, Felipe Danglapen, and lawyer Gwen Dombrique, and officers of Phosphos and the E-Cube Company. Film TV Network was there to witness the opening night and closing night, where the winners were announced. Here are some of the footage from that event.
All right, and your winner is...
Dun! There is no sound effects.
Drum roll. Drum roll.
There's an envelope inside of an envelope.
And another envelope.
The envelope has been signed. And the winner is... Bolosan. see someone coming through the darkness. Congratulations. Everybody give it up for the best screenwriter.
What the churches of different denomination now recently have in common is a decline in attendance. Undocumented immigrants, according to priests and pastors of parishes all over the country, stopped coming to their church for worship service. Parishioners are in hiding and not attending church in fear of being arrested and deported ever since President Trump's first day in office. Trump ended a policy of designating churches and other places of worship, schools, hospitals, courthouses, as being off limits from immigration enforcement operations and crackdowns. By virtue of an executive order from former President Joe Biden that has since been undone by President Donald Trump. Priests and pastors at congregations across the country tell CBS News that attendance has dropped sharply as a result. Now, pastors are taking unprecedented measures like locking doors during the services and hiring volunteers at the doors to make sure ICE agents don't enter welcoming worshiping centers into their homes for private gatherings, and delivering communion directly to their doors to ensure their communities can still practice their faith even while in hiding. Fresno resident Maria Caballero was scheduled for an interview for her adjusted status of her residency when she was arrested by ICE. California elected officials rallied at the federal court in downtown Fresno, like Assemblywoman Esmeralda Soria, State Senator Ana Caballero, and Congressman Jim Costa were among the officials who demanded the release of Maria.
In our world news, as the Israel's conflict over Gaza continued, you probably remember the climate child activist Greta Thunberg, who shouted the words, "How dare you," when confronting leaders in a speech at the United Nations in regards to climate change. While Greta has been very supportive and very active in the world effort to support ceasefire in Palestine and alleviate the sufferings of 2 million innocent civilians. She was among the people from all over the world at the flotilla of ships crossing the Mediterranean Sea from Italy to Gaza with group of individuals from different countries to give aid and basic supplies to Palestinians in Gaza, and was among the people from the flotilla who were detained by Israeli troops in the month of June this year. Witnesses who were with her during the captivity said Thunberg was brutally kicked and beaten and forced to kiss the Israeli flag. She was recently released on October 6th and highlighted the brutality about the time Greta and other team experienced during the time of their captivity.
Let me be very clear. There is a genocide going on in front of our very eyes. A live-streamed genocide on all of our phones. No one has the privilege to say we are not aware of what is happening. No one in the future will be able to say we did not know. Under international law, states have a legal obligation to act to prevent and to stop a genocide from happening. That means ending complicity, applying real pressure, and ending arms transfers. We are not seeing that. We are not even seeing the bare minimum from our governments. Our international systems are betraying Palestinians. They are not even able to prevent the worst war crimes from happening. And I will never, ever comprehend how humans can be so evil that you would deliberately starve millions of people trapped under an illegal siege as a continuation of decades and decades of suffocating oppression, apartheid, and occupation. The Global Samud Flotilla was the biggest ever attempt to break Israel's illegal and inhumane siege by sea. And it is a story of global, international solidarity, of people stepping up when our governments failed to do so, of people saying that my leaders, so-called leaders who are supposed to represent me, who continue to fuel a genocide, death and destruction, they do not represent me. And this is a last resort. That this mission has to exist is a shame. It is a shame. And I could talk for a very, very long time about our mistreatment and abuses in our imprisonment, trust me, but that is not the story. What happened here was that Israel, while continuing to worsen and escalate their genocide and mass destruction with genocidal intent, attempting to erase an entire population, an entire nation.
We are out of time for this show. Please join us again next week here at The Pulse. I'm Sam Buban. Thank you for watching.
And I'm Joe Buban. God bless your week.